Today we're going to be talking through the programmable inputs and outputs on the STA20 operator. The main processor for the STA20 has two programmable inputs and one programmable output. That can be further expanded by using the FEM0 board. That again has a further two programmable inputs and another programmable output. Going even further, we can use a FEM1 board that has got so many more programmable outputs. The main processor's programmable inputs are auxiliary 00 in and auxiliary 01 in. They can be programmed to do numerous things. The precedence for the inputs and outputs always starts with auxiliary 00 in as the highest precedence. Then it cascades upwards, so auxiliary 1 would come next in the line, auxiliary 2 on the FEM0 board would then take precedence, so the highest precedence is auxiliary 00 in. Because fire alarm would be a very high precedence, you would use auxiliary 0 in for your fire alarm. So the various options for your programmable inputs, it can do so much. Obviously there's the fire alarm, you could have it set to NSK, SOK, which I've explained in a previous video, which was the emergency protocols for the STA20. So we'll just briefly touch on them, but I'll go through a list of other options that you do have. The STA20 processor is made for inclusion for any country in the world, so different standards are prevalent in different countries. So not all of the programmable options would be utilised in the UK. So the options for the programmable inputs are, we went through NSK, SOK previously. You could also have it programmed to SURV. This would be timer locked. So if you activate that input, the door would close and lock. Once you remove the input, the door will revert back to its previous setting. Continuously open. Again, once that input is activated, the door will go to continuously open or hold open. Once it's reset, it will revert back to its last operating mode. SIS, that can be programmed for safety in shutting. If you're utilising third-party sensors, you would want your threshold sensor for it to be programmed as SIS. The same, it could be set to SIO, safety in opening, for your side screen safety sensors. The next option would be button AKI reduced. So you would program in a momentary push button, so when it's activated it will open the doors on the AKI activation inside impulse, but to a reduced opening, your winter setting, whatever that is set to. You could set it to dead man open and another input to dead man close. So as you press and hold the button, the door will open. Take your finger off, it will stop. You would then press another button for the door to close. The next option would be button AKI, activation inside. So if you're using a momentary push button, it would operate the door to full width. Emergency open, again we went through that in the previous emergency protocols. Emergency open could be utilised for a fire alarm input or an emergency input. SURA, you could fit a timer for it to turn the door to one way. So again, when the input is activated, the door will become a one-way door, reverting back to its previous status once it's reset. Button AKA, external push button. Button AKA reduced, that is an external button, but the door will open to its winter setting. So the two programmable inputs on the STA20 processor has got various options. Them same options can be transposed over to the FEM0 board. The output on the processor could be used for test sensors. If you're using third-party sensors, the standard state, they must have the facility to self-test. The alarm output can be utilised to send a signal back to a BMS system if the door goes into a false status. The gong setting can be configured so it will sound a gong or a bell when the door is opened. The locked function can send a signal to a BMS when the door is closed and locked. The closed one will send a signal if the door is just in closed position. The warning, that can also send a signal back to a BMS. Open will send a signal when the door is in the open position. So the AKI setting will send a signal if a push button or an internal sensor that's connected to the AKI setting is activated. It will send a signal back to the BMS. This could also be set for it to work on the AKA, or the outside sensor or push button. These are all basic options. Other options are available, especially if you utilize a FEM1 board. That gives you so many more options. But please check the manual for all the functions.